Everyone, welcome back to MGS Coaching Football and welcome to my five front series. Okay, so today in our five front series, I'm going to talk to you about our what we call our 50 front. All right, I'm going to show you how we adjust in our 50 front, both in the base, which is our automatic, as well as our rotate tag. All right. So what I'm going to go through first is the key terms here in the agenda so you can better understand the 50 front itself, which I'll go over in the diagram over here, but how everything in our five front family stems from the 50 front. All right, so the 50 front establishes all of our rules of adjustment, calls, gap control, run supports, okay, you name it. And then over here, I'll show you the various adjustments for motions, okay, how it's impacted in the base, the automatic, and then how it's impacted down here when we have our rotate tag. And those are the only two ways that we adjust in all of our five front families, okay? So the first key term here is what the 50 front itself. All right, and the 50 front is our base five front that all of the other fronts stem from. So our 50 front is numero uno, right? When things may not be going well and there may be a little confusion, we go right back to this, our 50 front. That's our base. That's what our guys are most comfortable in. Okay, so that's why it's the first of all the different video presentations for each particular five front. The 50 is first. Second, the gap control. See the diagrams. Well, for us, right, we number the gaps, and we're not reinventing the wheel here. A gap is a 1, B gap is 3, C gap is 5, D gap is 7. All right, and that's it. Boom, done. It's the same down here. So for gap control, for our inside linebackers, okay, the first digit is their play side gap. The second digit is their backside gap. So for us, right, in our five front known as 50, the defensive ends, now we're not talking about any type of line stunts or anything. If we were just to line up the 50 and play, our defensive ends have the B gap or 3. Okay. Our outside linebacker reads the hat, but he's going to really what we call ass and ankle. Use if the tight end's trying to block down or inside, he's going to use the tight end's body to block up the C gap or the 5 gap, and then he can play off into the 7. We also, when I get to the run supports, okay, we have help from our force defenders there as well. The nose plays one of the A gaps. And so the inside linebackers 5, that means play side, they got the C gap. And if they're on the backside, they'll make the nose right. So if the nose has this A gap, the backer, if he's backside, will have that A gap. And the nose love to hear that, right? They can't be wrong. The linebacker is going to make it right. So that's our gap control, okay? And our gap control rules stay the same for all our fronts, starting with the 50, okay? Now, the number 3 term here, run supports, it's either sky or it's check orbit. So what does that mean? It's sky unless, and what that means, if number 2 removes, then it checks to orbit, outside linebacker. 2's in part of the formation in the box, stays sky. Okay? So that means the outside linebacker here, he is going to have technically the D gap, right? 7 hole, like over here. The safety's going to force the ball here in the 7 gap or the D gap. And the force turns the ball back in to everybody else who are pursuing inside out. As we spill the ball outside, he forces the ball back inside. Right? That's all part of knowing where your help is. Right? Okay. So now to the key part of the presentation. How do we adjust to motions? How do we adjust to tight end trade? So number 4, the base adjustment is our automatic. And I'm not going to give you the signals. If I do not signal the rotate tag, which is at the end, then this is the automatic or the base adjustment. Okay? So it's called rope, and rope is used for all the motions. Right? And the rope involves the outside linebackers and the safeties. Okay? Match is for the tight end trade when it's in line. When the tight end's on the line and he trades, we match it. So that involves the rover and the inside linebackers. Okay? So when I talk about the rotate tag adjustment next, I'll go through this. But the first thing I'm going to do is show you the rope. Okay? Now, I'm not going to show you every possible motion. I'm going to show you one motion, but understand if this number 2 motions or that number 1 motions, the rope concept remains the same. Okay? And I'm not going to get into the running back motion because then that puts us into an empty check, which is a whole different thing. We have a specific front that we check to, which changes a lot of things, not just the motion. So these motions are the wide receiver motions. Okay? So now, number 2 motions across are what we call MAC motion. Okay? Here's what's going to happen. And this is the rope, right? Involves outside linebackers and safeties. He makes his call. Speed of the motion dictates everything. He then becomes part of the rope because we like to tell him, guys, you're all got a rope tied around you. So if he moves, he pulls you with it, which pulls him. These guys are all tied together on the same rope. And if we're in any of our match quarters, even if we're in our 3 match, even if we're in our man under 2 deep, they're going to do this, which is the built-in disguise. We don't adjust differently depending on which coverage we're in, right? Uber simplify it. Please do that for your guys. They could play faster with their feet. They could play faster here. Okay? So this is the rope. Outside linebacker safeties, they're involved, right? Ah! So again, if this guy were to motion, it's the same thing, just going the other way. So now, match. What if the tight end trades? So there's an inline tight end. And I'm just going to keep it all up there. Inline tight end. What happens if he were to trade? Well, that's where the match comes in. Because the rover and the Mike go to the tight end. These guys, right, so they'll switch and he'll match the trade, hence the term, match. So it involves the rover and the inside linebacker. So now you got rover and Mike on the tight end again and backer away, which is their rule. That's the base way to adjust. The automatic. We practice the daylight side of it all spring, preseason, and all season long. So then the second one down here, rotate tag adjustment. The gap controls, right? Everything's the same. Run support's the same. It's the same 50 front. Except now, if there's motions, the rotate is only, it's only going to be the safeties. Oh, right. It's only going to be the safeties. And obviously, I'm only talking a 2x2 formation here, not a 3x1. So I'll cover all that when I complete going through the rotate tag adjustment with you. Okay. So in the motions now, same motion, right? This is a Liz Wright also. Same motion, but when it's rotate tag, right? Instead of being on the rope, it only involves the 2 safeties. So those 2 guys adjust, and so then now he just walks up right there. He's not a part of the rope. he stays right there on the line of scrimmage. So now he's an unaccounted for defender on the line of scrimmage in protection. Who's going to account for him? Right? Who's going to account for that? So up here, we always maintain a too high or a middle open, right? Stay too high or middle open. Down here, it goes to one high or middle closed. So by having two different adjustments, you give the quarterback two different looks, right, at the snap. Two high, middle open, one high, middle closed. Same front, no way they're going to know which one you're going to use as an adjustment until they motion, and then they got to really adjust quickly before the ball snapped. And if they have a plan and they can do that, hats off to them. Okay? But then they got to have a lot into that plan, including how do they account for this extra guy now down here in the box. Okay? So now when it comes to tight end trade in line, right? He does the same thing. He comes up. He comes up and now he stays and he's the extra guy in the line of scrimmage. They rotate and they just swap assignments. So that means if when you're going to rotate and use that, if this is somebody who shouldn't line up on a tight end and you're playing somebody who's going to trade the tight end, then you're going to have to change your personnel. And so if you don't have the personnel to do that, then you better have a plan when you're in rotate that he's going to blitz or do something a little bit different. So you don't have a personnel mismatch. And that's where we as coaches come in. But the base way to adjust up here and the rotate way to adjust down here stands. We run with it. So at the college level, we can do those things with different things, with our personnel. High school, you may not be able to do that, and I understand that. Okay? So what I didn't get into is, because it would get messy real fast, going from 3x1 to 2x2 with the motions. I only showed you 2x2 going to 3x1. Rope's the rope. You adjust the same way, whether it's 2x2 to 3x1 or 3x1 to 2x2. Rotates, rotate. Again, same thing, whether it's 2x2 to 3x1 or 3x1 to 2x2. It's the same. Okay, for us, up here, I'll just add it. 3x1. Outside linebackers, same side. Down here, 3x1. Outside linebackers, opposite sides. And that's how we teach it. When we're in our base in the five fronts, both outside linebackers go to the three receivers, now assuming they come out in the 3x1. When we're in rotate, they stay on their own sides. Okay, so there's all kinds of nuances to teaching this, which is why, as I said not too long ago, once I cover the rotate tag, you have any questions, please email me at coachmjsullivan@gmail.com, and I would love to go through all of this with you. Okay? Have a great day.